meeting of the Southern West Virginia Community Technical College Board of Governors. It is the 19th day of March in 2025. Do a little roll call, verification of quorum, and go from there. Scotty Dingus,
Yes.
Tanya Porter,
Present.
Frank Tomlin,
Yes.
Dave Gresham. Here. Dave Lemon. Here. Cody Reynolds. Here. Mary Phipps. Here. Brad Williamson.
Here. Yes, sir.
Chris Ward.
Present.
And Chris Craig.
Present.
All present accounted for. That makes all 11 of us are here. Like I said, easy for number one. Number two, the oath of office for Mr. Williamson. He needs to be
Yes, sir.
sworn in. And the president just informed me that Velva is going to do that for you.
Yes, sir. It's down here.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Brady Williamson,
I, Brady Williams,
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of West Virginia,
and the Constitution of the State of West Virginia,
and I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of Southern West Virginia Community and Technical College Board of Governors
and I will faithfully discharge the office of Southern West Virginia Technical College Board of Governors
to the best of my skill and judgment,
to the best of my skill and judgment.
so help me God.
So let me go. Thank you. Okay, I got you.
Yeah, we did it. I think we got it right.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Number three, be action items. We'll start with those. The accept the resignations from the Board of Governors Liaison for Ms. Dove. Pleasure. Okay.
Make a motion to accept.
Second. All in favor, accept Ms. Jen Dove's resignation?
Aye.
Any nays? Appointment, hiring of a Board of Governors Liaison. Anybody suggestion?
Do we have a process of how that happens?
That would have to go through our HR system, be posted,
Okay,
and then.
I'll make a motion that it be posted.
I second the motion.
Motion posted and seconded by Mr. Gray. All in favor? Posted?
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Request final approval of policies following the 30-day period. I think, is that for you or is that the next one for you? You can do the next three, sir, if you don't mind.
Next two,
Next two, yes, sir.
I'm going to go ahead and present the faculty and our staff rep will present the staff one, if that's okay.
That part.
So line item 331 is for the faculty handbook. As December 17th, 2024 meeting, Southern West Virginia Community and Technical College Board of Governors approved the advancement of the faculty handbook SAM 2024.1 to Southern constituents and the Chancellor of Community and Technical College Education for the required 30-day comment period. The comment period ended in February 7th, 2025. No comments were received. Therefore, we recommend that the Board of Governors of Southern West Virginia Community and Technical College grant final approval of the faculty handbook.
Before we vote on it, that was something we needed to do before April 1st. Is that correct?
This one was of high priority because HLC hit us the last time they came here. We only had a draft and we've been trying to get it finalized. And because it was a very high importance on HLC, it really needs to be done if anything happens.
Um,
I make a motion to accept the faculty senate handbook as presented.
second,
Second.
second by Mr. Gray. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right.
Okay, item 3.3.2 SCP 1091 classified staff constitution. At its December 17th, 2024 meeting, Southern West Virginia Community and Technical Colleges Board of Governors approved the advancement of SCP 1091 classified staff constitution to Southern's constituents and the Chancellor for Community and Technical College Education for the required 30-day public comment period. The comment period ended on February the 7th. No comments were received. Therefore, the staff recommends that the Board of Governors of Southern West Virginia Community and Technical College grant final approval of SCP 1091 classified staff constitution.
We need to vote on that, sir.
Yes, we do, because this is an actual policy of the college, and the classified staff by state code we have to do our elections next month. So this one needs to be in place.
I'll make a motion to accept the classified staff council constitution as presented.
Motion,
Second.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
And Jared, before we leave tonight, I need you to, as chair, you have to sign this, and I'll get with you so we can get it signed.
Okay, next on agenda number 4, possible executive session under the authority of West Virginia Code 698-4. Pleasure.
Make a motion. Call 69- for A4. Go to executive. A second.
Your Honor, Honorable Chair, I'm new and we got several new members here and I'm not real familiar with this process. So I would like, and I can't speak for the other members, to have due process to be able to review this and before any actions taken at all, if you don't mind.
We'll go to executive session.
Okay.
Let you ask all the questions that you.
Yes,
Yeah, that's one reason.
perfect. Thank you.
that we're going.
Do we have to go to executive session?
We don't have to. We're going to take a vote. Dr. Lemon made a motion, second by Dr. Reynolds. All in favor
A motion on what?
to go to executive session.
Oh,
You don't have to, but we're voting on it.
You don't, there'll be no votes in executive session. That'll only be done to go to,
Two, that's what I mean.
yes, sir.
Yeah.
All in favor of executive session? Raise your hand, please. 3, 4, 5. Okay, all opposed? All right, don't want to go to executive session, that'll be fine. We'll move on to personnel issues. Dr. Treadway, would you care to speak, please, sir? Sure. Dr. Treadway is the Vice Chancellor of Community and Technical Colleges.
Good evening, everyone. For those who don't know me, my name is Chris Treadway. I'm the Vice Chancellor of the Community College System. Since we have some new board members with us this evening, I thought I'd just take a moment to sort of explain who we are and what we do, and then a little bit about why we're here for this meeting and why we were at the previous meeting. So our role as sort of the state central office is to primarily to sort of oversee the operations from a policy and limited oversight level of our non-community and technical colleges. The chancellor and I work together sort of as this sort of the senior executives at the state level for the community college system. We typically don't get involved at this level with institutional matters, but we're here tonight and have been involved with this situation for some months because of some pretty serious concerns that were brought to us by a number of people. We've been involved actively in this situation since August of last year. I will say to you that one of the sort of key responsibilities of our office and of our state board, which we'll refer to as the council is the state board, is to approve presidential contracts. So when the board votes to approve, when your board votes to approve contract, the next step in that process before that contract can be validated is that it comes to the state board for their consideration. So we generally don't get involved at this level until that sort of thing happens. So as I start talking a little bit about some of our sort of concerns and why we're involved, if at any point any of you decide that you would prefer to have this talked about in executive session, please interrupt me and bring that to the attention of the chair. And I suppose you could, make a second motion to move into executive session. It would probably be a more comfortable conversation if we could have that conversation in the executive session. As the chair mentioned, there would be no decisions made in executive session, but there are some pieces of this that we think are delicate that some involved, including the president, perhaps may not want to have discussed in open session, but I'll leave that to you all and to the president as well. So, starting back at the beginning and why we have some concerns. And then at the end of this, I'm going to tell you what our proposed action plan is, keeping in mind that ultimately our board has to approve any renewal of a contract for a president. And our understanding is the president's contract is up at the end of June. So any renewal of that contract would have to come through our board. And I've got some rough dates here that I'm going to share with you, so I'll just talk in sort of generalities. Back in August of 2022, as many of you are probably aware, the president was found to be in violation of the State Ethics Act and was ordered to pay a fine of $750 and take ethics training, all sort of surrounding involvement in promoting her son. So I'm talking right now.
That was in 2021.
2021. I said about. I didn't.
Make sure you're
It's
correct.
about the right time. Okay, 2021. My apologies.
Okay.
And again, our dates are approximate here on my notes, but so in 2021, thank you for the correction, there was an ethics violation. Now, that was resolved, and if that were the only issue, I think nobody would have sort of blinked an eye at that. And I also want to preface this by saying that I've known the president for years. We were in graduate school together. This is a tough conversation for me to have, but this is why I'm in this, because sometimes you got to make decisions that aren't easy decisions. And we're here to do that. The president's done a lot of good here. We've seen that. And I don't want to sort of negate any of that, but there have been behaviors that we've observed directly, and these aren't allegations, they're behaviors we've observed since we started getting involved in this process, that give us sort of grave concerns about her ability to continue to lead this institution. And again, the ethics violation was just sort of the beginning of that conversation. And again, if it were just that, we'd let it go with that. But then jumping forward, and I'm going to hit some of the bigger points here. So I'm not going to be able to list all of the concerns. And again, I'm just listing the ones that we were sort of a party to, those that we were sort of directly involved in one way or the other. Last year, in 2023, I should say, we received word from the governor's office that the president was trying to purchase a new vehicle, which is pretty standard. It's not uncommon for presidents to be provided a vehicle for official use. But the problem was that the documentation that was submitted to fleet management and was approved by fleet management and barely got caught by the governor's office before the purchase was made was for a car in excess of $90,000. It was a luxury SUV that cost more than $90,000. One of the important roles of a president, I think, is to sort of give the impression that you understand the struggles of the community you're in, that the message you're sending from the institution to the broader community is that I understand there are students out there who can't afford to buy food or struggle to buy textbooks. And you have to understand that the optics of spending more than $90,000 in taxpayer money on a luxury SUV is problematic for a number of reasons. Quite frankly, when I found out about it, I got online and tried to build the car on Ford's website. I couldn't get one. I couldn't have enough features to the car to get to that price. It's an expensive car. So I called the president about that, talked to her directly about it, said, hey, we have this request from the governor's office. They're upset about this. You can't get this car for various reasons. This is a bad idea. And she understood. And then the next step was to go to the board. That was a different board at the time. So I don't know that many folks who are here now were here then. And maybe one, but one of you. So she had sort of amended into her contract a car allowance, which again isn't necessarily atypical. The problem was, as I mentioned at the very beginning of the conversation, presidential contracts have to be approved by the state board. So the president received these additional payments in her contract, and that contract was never approved by the board. And I think that went on for 6 months. I think the total was $9,000 of $1,500 a month payments for a car. So these were payments that were made to the president that shouldn't have been made. And I can tell you, given sort of the tenor at the time, I can't imagine that the state board would have approved that because they had rejected some other amendments to contracts that resulted in additional compensation at the time. Again, that in and of itself, not necessarily a problem by itself, but it's sort of compounding, if you see where I'm going with this. We're building a story about some decisions that I think reflect on the president's decision-making ability. And I think on her judgment. So again, another example. Then we jump ahead to August of 2024. And at that point, there were some new board members appointed. I think the chairman was appointed and Dr. Lemon at that time. And our general counsel at the time, Kristen Boggs, and I came down to sort of meet with the new board members and the president and a couple other folks to do some new board member orientation and, kind of walk them through their role as a board member, introduce ourselves, explain, what resources we're able to provide to help board members be successful. At that time, there was information that the two new board members had requested of the president in her office. The president's office wasn't providing. And that's a recurring theme that I'm going to keep hitting on throughout my conversation with you this evening. It's that there have been repeated episodes wherein board members, personalities aside, board members asking for information from the administration, and the administration either stonewalling or refusing to provide it. I can tell you that if a member of our state board calls our office or emails us and says they need information about something, they're our board. We work for them. We respect their role in all of this. We drop what we're doing and we respond to any reasonable request from a board member. And if it's a request that we can't accommodate in a timely manner, we immediately contact that board member and say, hey, we're working on this for you. Are you okay if we take a few extra days to get that to you? But we have that dialogue with our board. But we haven't seen that here. At that meeting with Ms. Boggs and I, we emphasized that to the president and to a few members of her administration who were in the room with us, that when your board asks for information, you work for the board, you give them the information that they're asking for. With the exception being, if an individual board member is asking for, say, personnel data or personnel information that will be considered private or privileged, there's a different sort of avenue to being able to see that kind of information. But at the end of the day, you as board members, you're the employer. So, it may be that you need to come into an executive session and talk about personnel data, but it is not an option to just deny a request or drag it along. At one point, the board members asked for a perfectly reasonable bit of financial data, nothing that was the least bit out of the ordinary. And were told they would have to file a Freedom of Information Act request to get that data. That's what the members of the general public have to do. And it's information that if a member of the general public asked our office for it, we would provide it. Now, again, it may not be on the timeline they wanted if it's a big request. And I don't remember this being a big request. And I'm telling you this as someone who witnessed it firsthand. I've seen the communications back and forth. This is not something I'm hearing anecdotally. It's something we experience and we've been fighting with the institution over since August of last year. And again, it's not been one or two. It has been repeated requests for information that the administration has refused to honor. And it's their duty and obligation to do that. So as you can see, as I continue to talk here, we're building to what I think is just a sort of into a pattern of just poor decision-making and an inability to take a situation with different personalities. And I know we all have different personalities. Some of us have very difficult personalities. I do, ask my wife. But as a president, one of the most important characteristics of a president is that you can work with those different personalities. And while there have been some issues, I think, with sort of interpersonal relationships, ultimately, there have been multiple sort of instances in which if things had been handled differently by the administration, we wouldn't be where we are today. And again, there have been many of those. Then we jump ahead. We understand that there were some employees who filed complaints and grievances. Don't know the entire nature of those grievances. We know they were filed. I think there were 3 of them.
For 5.
5, thank you.
And I have that information.
Yeah, perfect. You're aware of 3, so there are 5, even better. So the chancellor, so when I say we, the chancellor and I, and our general counsel at the time, have communicated with the president and her staff repeatedly about employees who have active grievances and how you should sort of handle those situations, and that the worst possible thing you can do when an employee has an active grievance against you, unless there's a darn good reason, is to terminate those employees. They fired 3. 3 employees who had active grievances were terminated, or their positions were eliminated. So now we're in a place with this institution where we run the risk of lots of lawsuits because it looks like retaliation. The chancellor spoke to the president and her team. I did, our general counsel did. Before any of this happened, don't take any personnel actions, any negative personnel actions against personnel with an active grievance against your institution. But it happened anyway. So we advised against the car. The car happened in a different way. It happened anyway. Car allowance. So we had $9,000 in payments that shouldn't have happened. We advised against taking personnel actions against employees with grievances. They're no longer with you. At least 3 of them aren't that we're aware of. That's a problem. And again, it's this pattern of poor judgment that's gotten us involved at the level we're involved in. We have never done what we're doing right now, to my knowledge, as a state central office. And for most of this time, we've done our best to try to provide support to the board and support to the president and try to find common ground in this entire situation. And it's not working. Roughly end of 2024, at some point along the way, prior to 2024, or prior to November of 2024, our understanding is that the president appointed her ex-husband, Bill, to a senior leadership position. And then sometime around November, I believe it was, he was removed from that position. Then shortly thereafter, the president went out on extended medical leave. Circumstances there, she left for extended medical leave without even notifying the board chair, according to the board chair at the time. What we were told by the board chair.
When I went on medical leave, I didn't know it was my responsibility.
I'm just telling you,
Okay, so, you know, but
Pam, I'm not arguing with you right now. I'm having a conversation with the board. You're welcome to,
I guess I would like
That's fine.
you to respond.
that'll be up to the chair and the board to decide if you respond. So sort of toward the end of the semester, president goes out on medical leave. Mr. Taylor was appointed by the board to serve as an interim over the holidays. We spoke with the board about the fact that they really didn't need an interim or acting president during that period. It was the end of the semester. So we were at the time giving an employee a roughly $35,000 annual pay increase. So he wouldn't have received that much money. It was just $35,000 above an annual salary to be an interim president over Christmas break. Because I believe the president was scheduled to come back mid-January. So our state board, the council, had a problem with that. And they rejected Mr. Taylor's contract. Not at all a statement about Mr. Taylor, his abilities or his leadership or his character or anything like that. It was that there was no need to place an interim with a $35,000 pay cut into this institution for Christmas break. It just wasn't necessary. So our board rejected that contract. And at some point right there around the same time, asked your board to come to Charleston on pretty short notice. I think they gave them 1 day's notice from a correctly, so we need to see you tomorrow. And our board talked, your board listened. Some of our senior leadership on our board, plus some folks from our office, our general counsel, the chancellor, me, a couple of folks, spoke to the board about this entire situation and why we have a problem with it. How we see it sort of devolving, and in part because of a lack of sort of astute leadership on the part of the president. So we thought at the end of that meeting that things would maybe settle themselves down a bit. But immediately, and I think it was within the day a day of the time that the board rejected Mr. Taylor's contract, the president was released to come back to work. And I'll add that while in the few days that Mr. Taylor was leaving the institution before his contract was approved by the council, one of the actions that he took was to put the president's ex-husband back into that leadership position. We explained to him that we thought that was concerning because we'd already had this sort of conversation about how that looked bad. And especially in light of the ethics violations and things like that previously. And I will say the ethics commission has stated that that's not an ethics violation now, if it's an ex-spouse, not an ethics violation. But the timing of it it doesn't pass the smell test, if that makes sense. Most recently, the issue I think that has us most concerned out of all is that our understanding is that that you all had a very successful visit from the Higher Learning Commission recently, and that you were reaccredited for 10 years, which was a big win for you all. And that's something to really be proud of. So I don't want to, as I'm talking about all this other stuff, I don't want to sort of minimize the accomplishments, because I've said before, lots of good things have happened here under the president's leadership. But we also can't ignore the other things that have happened. So on the heels of that great visit to HLC, there have been some complaints, I think, that were anonymous that were sent into HLC by certain personnel here at the institution. I will say that our involvement is somewhat limited in this. We don't typically get between HLC and an institution as a state office. We only tend to step in if there's an issue, and it's usually if the institution reaches out to us, or we observe in the media or get a call from a president that there's a problem. So these complaints were submitted. And at some point in the process, the president and some others in her leadership team drafted a response. And I will say some of the complaints involved, I believe, the president herself, and some were related to the board and some of the conduct of the board members. The president and her staff developed I believe it was a 250-some page response. I've read the first several pages, haven't gotten to all 356. But they developed a response and sent that response to HLC. And we asked for copies of that and got those at the end of the day on Friday. And we, being the chancellor, and I, and our vice chancellor for academic affairs and our general counsel, read the response that was submitted by the leadership of this institution and were flabbergasted. Because when you read it, it's a very one-sided response. It's a response written by someone who is trying to sort of minimize her role in all of this, all of this entire situation leading up to this, and throw all of it, 100% of it, at the feet of the board. And I'll just put it frankly, she threw the board under the bus in the response. We have never seen anything quite like it. So because of that, because of the way that response was written, you're now getting a focus visit from the Higher Learning Commission. That's a bad thing, folks. Yet you were off the hook for 10 years for the most part. And now, thanks to that response and a reckless attempt to, again, minimize their role in all of this and throw it solely at the feet of the board, HLC is coming to visit you all in the fall. I can tell you that we had a meeting with HLC this afternoon, an emergency meeting. just to let them know what we were planning to do. We didn't really talk about the specifics, but we did talk about the fact that we shared with them. They didn't share much with us. We shared with them what we were planning to do today to make sure that we weren't sort of violating any core tenets of your accreditation. We've just never seen anything quite like it. It's reckless, it's careless, it's going to have a devastating effect on this institution if things don't go well at this next visit in the fall. It's the president's responsibility to be a steward of this institution. Personal feelings aside, a president should never be in a position where he or she is throwing the board under the bus, directly attacking the board to their accrediting body. And I will point out that the board never saw the response that was submitted. Now, it's not required, I don't think, that the board see those responses, but it would have been good form, I think, because part of the complaints were related directly to the president. So the person who was sort of the focus of at least one of the complaints was the one drafting the response and submitting it. And there was no oversight. You all should have seen that in this case because of the circumstances. Do I think it was necessarily nefarious? I don't know. But again, it doesn't pass the smell test. This is the problem we have. We've never seen anything like this from any institution that we oversee. I've been with the agency more than 10 years. Chancellor's been there a lot longer than I have. We've never seen anything quite as careless and reckless as this. It's mind-boggling. The other thing I want to mention related to the HLC piece is that it's not just an HLC visit that you're in for. It's not just somebody coming to give you a quick audit. There are other sort of repercussions when you have an adverse action taken by one accrediting body. And I'll give you an example of one. We've now had to notify the Department of Veterans Affairs. There's an adverse action coming against the institution because then they now have to come in and audit that whole side of the house. Anytime there's an adverse action, Veterans Affairs has to step in and do an audit. We're obligated to notify them. Then there has to be an audit. You know, I almost feel like in some cases this is being treated as a game by the president and her staff, without considering sort of the broader implications of all of this. Another example I'll give you of just bad decision-making is that I understand that the faculty have had serious concerns, and they're concerns that shouldn't be ignored. And at some point, a month or two back, they met at faculty assembly and had a vote of no confidence in the board. I think it was in two members of the board specifically, and a vote of confidence in the president. You know, a no confidence vote is not something that should be ignored. It's a sign that there is a problem and that people need to kind of step back and take a breath and start to have some dialogue to sort of bring the tone of the conversation down. But rather than bringing the tone of the conversation down, here's what happened. You get a call one day. Have you seen Southern's Facebook page? I haven't. Part of the Facebook page. The official institutional Facebook page, a government-owned computer system, a computer system that's effectively owned by you as a board, in essence, or at least overseen by you as a board, and for whom the president and her staff are stewards, was a giant post about the historic vote of no confidence with a graphic that the communications folks made. It was a post on your Facebook page, on your institutional Facebook page, attacking the board. I mean, you could have heard the gasps from a mile away in our office when we all saw that. So I called the president. I said, I asked, like, what is this? You're attacking your board on your public Facebook page. This can't happen. Now, what people do on their own personal Facebook pages, have at it. First Amendment, folks. Big fan. But this is an official government computer system. It is a monumentally bad decision for your sole employee. The president is your sole employee. The board has one employee, the president. President employs the rest of them. Your sole employee, either directed or allowed to be posted, a giant post attacking the board, allowed institutional resources And time is a resource, so somebody in an office had to sit and create a graphic to throw up on Facebook, a graphic attacking this body. 2 board members in particular, but the body as a whole. That's out there in the public. That's out there for people to see. Those sorts of things hurt enrollment. They hurt morale. They make it impossible for a board like this to oversee and lead this institution. It is a monumentally bad decision. So again, these things keep stacking up. And I'll say again, I'm not suggesting that the president hasn't done great things here. Absolutely she has. But I will tell you that when we've confronted her with some of these things, on more than one occasion, her response has been throw somebody else under the bus. Example. Well, the HLC piece is one example. First response, throw somebody under the bus. When I called the president the first time to talk about the car, our $94,000 luxury SUV, her first reaction was to throw her assistant under the bus. I'll never forget it. My assistant did that. Oh, we did. My assistant did that. I didn't see it. She must have done that without my knowledge. Not making it up. I remember the conversation. It's exactly, almost verbatim, what was said. That's what was said when I called. Another time I talked to her about it, she blamed another board member, Thornhill, for encouraging her to buy a car. That, you did it, Pam. It happened. I heard the conversation. So.
Never recorded.
Yep, good. Blame the Thornhill.
I did blame Thornhill.
Said to me that my board members were encouraging me to get the car. What was I supposed to do? And I said, you're the president. You say, no, it's not a good look to drive around a $94,000 car. That's your job as the leader of this institution. Also blame the CFO. It might have been the same call, in fact. That's just how we fill out the paper, Chris. This was months after the first excuse we were given. That's just how we fill out the paper. We weren't going to spend that much money. First time I've heard that one. It was 6 to 9 months later. The CFO filled the paper out. We weren't going to spend that much money. So time and time again, there have been bad decisions. There has been a sort of a refusal to take any ownership of her role in all of this. And we are where we are today. And I will make this statement, and I'm going to say this to you. This is something that we, as a state central office, have never actually had to do before. But I'm telling you that as a state central office, and on behalf of the chancellor and myself, we have lost all confidence in the president's ability to continue to lead this institution. Our board is the board that would have to approve any future contract renewals. And it is our recommendation that to our board that if a contract comes back to us for this president, that they not approve it. So what we're proposing to you all today, and you are independent voting members of the board, vote your conscience or don't vote at all. That's your choice. So I'm not trying to pressure you to vote one way or the other, but I'm going to tell you what sort of the two paths are that we can take here at this point. This institution is in a state of crisis right now. Continuing to do the same thing and hoping for a different outcome is not going to work in this case. So your options, as we see it, are twofold. First, we're recommending that you allow the president to continue to work out the remainder of her contract. But because of the things that I've mentioned to you already, we think there need to be some specific limitations placed on her powers and responsibilities. And there are 4 of them. Yeah. The first one ties back to personnel decisions. Firing or limiting the positions of employees who have active grievances against the institution. So our first recommendation for sort of limiting the president's authority is to remove her authority to make any personnel decisions without the approval of the board. That's hiring, firing, promoting, anything personnel related, demoting, all of it. Pull that power back as a board, be involved. Oversee that in a more active way than you normally would as a board. Because of the car purchase and some of the other purchasing decisions that we've seen, and I think some of the board members have also conveyed concerns about, we recommend putting a cap on purchases that aren't approved by the board. And we're recommending a $5,000 cap. Any purchase over $5,000 should be approved by the board.
So you're saying anything that,
I'm talking to the,
Well, then,
we can clarify that later.
wow.
wow, that's ridiculous.
We're,
Respect. That would be.
their recommendations.
Recommendations. Just you can-
You're recommending.
We're also recommending,
You respect.
we're also recommending that until the end of her contract, that no official correspondence between this institution and HLC, that will be by the president or any member of the leadership team. Now, this is not counting anonymous complaints into HLC, but any official correspondence sent on behalf of the institution to the Higher Learning Commission needs to be reviewed and approved by the board before it's sent. Because we've seen here a pattern that the president and her staff have been reckless in the way they've handled this correspondence with the HLC. And we're also recommending limitations on official posts to your website or social media related to any of this situation. For example, attacking the board on social media. Can't on their private Facebook pages. Again, they can have at it. But through official channels, limiting the president and her staff to not posting anything on the public social media or website or internet sites that could be sort of construed as attacking the board or in any way sort of denigrating the work that you will do. We think with those limitations in place, that the president could work out her tenure through the end of June. And that brings us to sort of the branching point in all of this. We are prepared to start the process of a state takeover. It's something we have never done as a system. We're prepared to start that process as early as next week. If the board doesn't act in a way that we think will bring some resolution to this, again, we can't continue to do the same thing over and over again and hope for a different outcome. The board needs to sort of set personal feelings aside. And we need you to make a decision that sets this back on the right track. Now, these are our recommendations. If you discuss this and come up with a different solution, it still satisfies us that we're not doing the same thing and expecting a different outcome. That's fine, that's your prerogative as a board. If we are not satisfied as a state agency with the outcome, we are prepared to sort of initiate that process of a state takeover next week. I found out today that another county down here in the region is a county school system is due for is kind of in the works of a state takeover right now. And if I understood it correctly, I think every county or nearly every county in your service region is or has been involved in a state takeover by the Department of Education. We have never had a higher education institution involved in a state takeover. But that's where we are. We have been, at the state level, we have been dealing with this since, in earnest, since August of last year. Never seen anything like it. We've been dealing with it since, months prior to that with some of the other issues, to a lesser degree. But in earnest since August. It has to stop. And it's not going to stop, in our opinion, with President Alderman at the head of this institution. So that's where the branching point kind of comes in for this conversation. The board has a choice to take some action, either with our recommendations or not, or some version of this, that satisfies our office, our board chair, and our leadership team, that something's going to change and improve here, or option B is a state takeover. Doing nothing is not an option at this point. If nothing happens tonight that we consider to be satisfactory, we're moving toward our sort of solution to the problem. The way a state takeover works is that the state board would vote, and if they vote in the affirmative, then we would be in a position to withdraw specific powers and duties from this board. For example, employing the president. We can withhold specific powers and duties or all of them. And that's the solution that we've come to at this point. Again, we don't take this lightly. We've never been brought to the point where we are right now. We go out of our way to try to be supportive of our institutions, to try to make sure that all the press we see is good press, because there are lots of good things happening out here at the institutions. But all the good things that are happening out here, your faculty, staff, and students, are being overshadowed by this ongoing situation. Headlines like this cause lots of problems for institutions. Beyond just the direct impact of enrollment issues and just public perception, donors, people who are just fed up and don't want to give their money to an institution with this much trouble. It's more difficult to attract qualified staff. In West Virginia in general, it's really tough to attract people to come here to take some of the more specialized jobs that we have available. And that's especially true if you're hiring a president, for example. Someone who's applying for a president's position, they're going to research this institution at length, spend hours and hours learning about this institution. And when they Google Southern, what are they going to see when they click on the news button at the top of the search engine? They're going to see this. If they look up issues with accreditation, what are they going to find? It's a situation that has to end. And beyond just this solution, we can't stop there. Our office is here to support all of you. That's generally, it's the favorite part of my job, is I do a lot of work with boards. We try to provide boards with training. We host conferences for you. We provide support when you have questions. And even outside of this conversation, we're happy to do that. If you call us, have cards, I can give you a conversation. But in this case, we're having to take a different tact. And we have tried to brainstorm every other possibility for how we might get ourselves out of this situation. It's not going to happen. But after this piece happens, the next piece is for all of us in this room to sit down, get to know each other, and start to have some meaningful conversations about how we can move beyond this. We have to get past all the bad blood from previous meetings, all the Facebook posts, all the other sort of nonsense that's overshadowing the important work that everybody in this room, the board, our faculty and staff, our students, good work that all those folks are doing. And we're ready to help you all with that as well. In fact, we recommended, I think back in our November meeting, that you work with a group like the Association of Community College Trustees to let them come in and host a retreat for you all, where you all get together and not discuss institutional business, but discuss how you as board members can sort of better contribute to the institution. I've attended quite a few of their meetings. They're wonderful. Those folks do an amazing job. They bring in senior, sort of seasoned presidents and seasoned board chairs and others who can kind of walk you through some of the trials and tribulations of being a board member and give you lots of good advice on how you can function better as a board. And it's important, I think, for all of us to sort of be able to reflect on our own actions and figure out how we've contributed to the situation we're in today. If you were here then on the board. So we're here to help you with that as well, and any other ideas you have to help us move beyond this. But the initial decision that either gets made by you all in some way this evening or by us as early as next week has to be made first. It's not an easy decision. This has not been an easy conversation for me to have because, again, it's not like anything we've ever had to do with an institution before. But here we are. And I still say that we're in this together. We may have different opinions, different philosophies on how we should move forward. But at the end of the day, I really do believe that every person at this table and every person in this room is here because they value the work that this institution does. This is an important part of the community. And until we get past this, we can't get back to that work. I think everybody here values the work that's done at this institution. We value our students, value the work that you all do as volunteers. I don't think you signed up for this when you agreed to be a board member, but here we are. And I think that's really about all I have to say for you all. I appreciate your time and your patience, and we'll just stay in touch with you all. We'll sit and sort of continue to observe, and we'll report back tomorrow. We're expected to report back to our board chair and some others as well on the status and the outcome of this meeting, and then decisions will be made. So with that, I'll wrap up. Mr. Chairman, I thank you for your time. I thank all of you for and your patience and listening. Thank you. Thank you.
No, I will say that we do have a draft resolution based on the recommendations that we can provide that makes it easier. If you wanted to use that as kind of a source to start with. But other than that, I think Chris said everything appropriately.
Give Dr. Albright a couple minutes to
Thank you.
respond.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, thank you, Dr. Treadway. I appreciate this. I want to take each one of your points that you talked about, and I want to address them. And I may ask a couple of people in the audience to make a statement as well. Yes, serious concerns have been happening since August of 2024. 10 members of our Board of Governors have resigned since August the 4th, 2024. That is huge when you have 12 members on a board and 3 of those are from the institution, the student representative, the staff representative, and the faculty representative. You discussed the car. I want to talk to you about the car. The first thing that ever came out, you got the facts wrong. I want to clarify this with you. The first time the car was ever brought up while I was driving a Jeep was at another meeting, another board meeting. And Wally Thornhill and I were leaving the board meeting. And he said, "What are you doing driving a Jeep?" I said, "Well, that's what they gave me to drive." And he said, "Well, no. So when Joanne was here, she had two Denali's." He said, "We need to get you into a Denali." And I kind of put it off. So after that time, I hired Dr. Lemon. Dr. Lemon became a friend of my family's. Dr. Lemon used to go to Thornhill Ford and get these $94,000 cars, Ford Expeditions, and parade them up here around the college for me to look at. Is this correct? Absolutely. He kept saying, "You deserve a car. You deserve a better car. You need to be driving this." And he would bring these up. Well, he's not a car salesman. He is not a car salesman. Then the board, which Mr. Gresham was on the board at that time, I'm not on the board, I do not vote for the board, asked about the car. And so we said, well, Velva has to get some information. And Velva, you want to tell them how that all came about, please?
We had a previous CFO who had written Dr. Alderman's contract instead of the attorney's for starters. So he had changed a lot of things that we were familiar, that I can't say I was familiar with because I never saw the president's contract before. And she was driving a Jeep at the time, and she had requested, what she wanted was a vehicle with a third row seat to do high school visits, as our previous presidents had done, so she could transport totes and a staff to these high school visits because of ACA and different things. That's traditional, that's what we've always done here, and she could not do that in a Jeep. We have also had several auctions since 2020 where we had auctioned off several vehicles. In December of 23, we auctioned off 2 Ford Expeditions and a Ford F-250. Before that, we had auctioned off several other vehicles That was part of our line package. So we had decreased our fleet. So when we filled out that form, it asked if you have decreased your fleet, and we had decreased our fleet. Some of those may have been older vehicles, but you also have to put the price, like kind of like a cap, and what you're wanting. And at that time, and I'm not sure where Mr. Treadway is shopping, but for a third row Ford Expedition, a $90,000, and yes, she did want a few things on it. Like, and I have it here. I think she had wanted like a heating steering wheel or, you know, a few accommodations, but $90,000, if anybody's purchased the vehicle, was kind of a common price for it. So that's what we put on there. Normally Fleet would reject it or approve it, send back to me. I never heard from them. Dr. Altman called me one day, the governor's office, or it could have been Mr. Treadway called her upset about the vehicle. So we said, okay, that's fine. You know, we won't purchase it. Before that, I even got involved with the other CFO who had got a leased vehicle approved by the board of governors in June of 23. He got a lease, a $1,200 lease for her. Well, unfortunately, due to COVID and things, vehicles were on an impossible bid to list, and we also had looked for different places to lease vehicles, and we could not find that type of vehicle for lease. So during that time, Dr. Alderman had a personal vehicle ordered, I believe, for over a year. She said, this vehicle that I have ordered has came in, and I said, we knew that her contract said something about providing her a vehicle. So I said, well, possibly we could get a stipend for it, so that, and I said, and I talked to the board and things and said, let's make sure that it covers, you know, the payment of the vehicle and the insurance and things for the vehicle. So that's when I brought it to the board and asked for a $1,500 stipend. And the board had approved that stipend in February of 24. I believe it was February of 24. And so in March, she started getting the $15 a month stipend. We did not know anything about it until August, the magic month, that she could not receive us because it was not worded that way in her contract. It said a vehicle owned by the college. And you have to remember, she had a Jeep assigned to her. When she started stopping, the Jeep was no longer assigned to her. It was put back in our pool of vehicles. So she did not have a vehicle assigned to her. She started receiving the stipend. So in August, she received a call, I believe it was from Chancellor Tucker, who said, you know, we didn't know there was a chart on that because she receives a stipend for like a cell phone, and different presidents receive one for housing and different things. And said, we see you're receiving a stipend for a vehicle that's not allowed because that's not how it's worded in your contract. So Dr. Altman said, let's stop it immediately. We stopped it immediately. She said, and I wasn't on this call, so I can't tell you for sure. She said, do I need to pay it back? And I believe, and Dr. Alderman can tell you, that they said no because you weren't assigned a vehicle at the time. Since then, she has offered to pay the stipend back monthly, just like she received it. It was $9,000, and now this is unfortunately where we're at. So to my understanding, she said she would pay for the vehicle.
And I have not driven a state car nor received any reimbursement for travel since August. I have done it on my own. Mr. Fletcher, however, tried to slander me in some newspaper articles last week and said I was driving a $93,000 vehicle. I brought my window sticker and my bill of sale for every one of you to see, and I will pass it around to you. My Nautilus cost exactly $7,250. My bill of sale from Thornhill Ford was $63,775. A long way off from $93,000, Mr. Fletcher.
Yeah.
Board member at that point in time, the only one left who was involved in that deal. I can tell you it was presented to us by the former CFO, sold to us by the former CFO, and taken care of by the former CFO. The board voted, to my knowledge, unanimously to approve a stipend for this vehicle for President Alderman to use for the purposes that Velma stated. Transportation of other staff, transportation of totes and materials to organizations like the high schools for presentations. She's even brought people to our hospital for events. So I assume she needs to have a bigger vehicle. The fact that previous presidents had Denali's and other cars, yeah, the issue is it's not in her contract. To me, that's easily correctable. The board makes a motion to accept it. We put it in a contract, we amend the contract, which is what the previous CFO who did all this work did not do. I don't see it as an issue on her. I see it as an issue on the board that was there. And I'll take responsibility for that. I voted for it 100%. But I voted for it on the recommendation of what I thought was a reputable, knowledgeable CFO. So again, if there's issues, you blame it on myself and the 10 board members who were here at that time, who are not here at this point in time for, in my opinion, obvious reasons.
I was there.
Oh, it's down, Scott.
Hey, Dave, I was there with you. I think that was like first semester I was there.
So you also talked about the first ethics complaint in 2021. That was a mistake. And it was a legitimate mistake. That was before we had Sign Now. That's when I would get a whole group of papers on my desk and I would go through signing them. Debbie Dingus is the HR director. Inadvertently, Will Alderman, my son, his got into that list, that stack, and I signed it. Did I go back and look to see everybody's who I signed? No, I didn't. But I did go to the ethics training. I paid $750. That is all that happened with that. So I want to make that clear that that was a violation that was very easily could have happened to anyone, as Debbie, Ms. Davis, and I had talked about. Because now with Sign Now, we get one at a time, and you get to see exactly who it is and send it back. So that is what happened. August 3rd, David Lemon was the Dean of Workforce Development here at the college. He was let go. August the 4th, Mr. Lemon and Mr. Fletcher left. They came onto our board, replacing two wonderful board members, Mr. Jeremy Thompson and Mr. Virgil Underwood. We were told that that's what could be done. Everybody was in a little bit of an upset because when these two came into the meetings, they were disruptive. They were disruptive from day one. Folks who attended the meetings can vouch for me from that. They were disruptive from day one. On August the 14th, I believe it is, and I want to read it to you. Just one moment. On August the 14th at 5:07 p.m., I received a text message from the governor's chief of staff, Brian Abraham, best friend of David Lemon. Good friend of David Lemon, yes. And Bill Alderman had gone out and was, as the CAO, was talking about how could this happen. And apparently this got back to the governor's office. And this is what Mr. Abraham said to me. And I see this as a threat. I felt very threatened when I read this. At the end of the day tomorrow, oh no, I'm sorry, that's mine. Bill is not being very covert. If this continues, I'm going to replace Bud Baldwin and other members of the board. To end well. Hiring a law firm to investigate the letter is also embarrassing waste of school resources. There was a proton.me letter going around and we were asked to have it investigated. So I was threatened with replacement of my board and for Governor Jim Justice and Brian Abraham, who was running the governor's office, because the governor was running for Senate, replaced the board. And I found that very, very threatening. Let me go on, because I've got more information to share. And you may not. June, let me write this, find this date, June 7th. Mr. came over to my house. And he sat down, he was half drunk, so you know. And he said, after a little bit of conversation, he said, I want you to make me your chief of staff and fire Bill Alderman. I said, no. Yes,
This is getting.
I get my say. Wanted me to fire Bill Alderman and he be chief of staff. He threatened me. He said he would arrest me when he became U.S. Marshal. He said that he would laugh at me when he took me to jail and put me behind bars. He told me that he could make people disappear and no one would find them.
I cannot believe you can stay there talking.
It's a right. Because it happens. I want my right to speak.
Right.
You said you can make people. Okay, I'm gonna say.
We can remove everybody from here. We just have
You have to say.
We're trying to give it to her.
Well, then hush.
They can shut up.
Come up here, bud. Take these two out. Take these two right here out.
Oh. Yeah, you don't get your way.
So I will continue. He also got us and unplugged the baby monitor. My daughter has a 2-year-old. He unplugged the baby monitor so that none of this would be recorded. And this happened. On June the 8th, I told Whitley, I said, I want to leave. I said, I'm afraid David Lemon will come back. I was afraid. And we went for driving around for about 3 hours because I'm afraid of David Lemon. Many people at this institution are afraid of David Lemon and what he can do. And David Lemon came to my house twice that night trying to get in, but we were not there. Yes, you did. We have it on tape.
That's fine. I only came over.
Okay, so let me go on. I want this all to be clear because I think that I have been slandered. I think I have been railroaded, and I think you all need to know the truth. That's all. So, Dr. Treadway, you talked about us firing individuals with grievances. We have only fired one person with a grievance, and that wasn't until 2 weeks ago. You have false information. I want to tell this board and this body that is here, I want to give you the status of our grievances. From March of 2024 to March of 2025, we have had 9 grievances filed. 1 was dismissed. 3 were withdrawn, and that left 6, I believe, 5, 6. So 1 of the grievances, and I want to read these grievances because everybody's asked. Well, yes.
The public needs to hear her side.
Well, if y'all are listening, she's blamed everybody else. She's blamed Brian Abraham.
No, that's right. Don't scream at us. Bring the receipts out. Pull the text out and pass it around. Don't show the receipt. Don't scream, you might cut us.
Here is the first. This is the one from, if you want to see this is the one from 2021. So let me talk about the other grievances. Ethics complaints. So we have an ethics complaint, VCRB 2024-129. This was from a former employee. He was employed at the time. And he stated, and this was not while he This complaint was made in November. And so this person was not fired until a couple of weeks ago. And he complained about several different things. This person complained about a landscaping project and potential conflicts of interest. He said that I hired my best friend that lived near me to do landscaping here in the front of the building. We have capital funds to do landscaping and those types of things, Dr. Treadway. We had waited 2 years. The company that did our landscaping was from Williamson, Webb Construction. It talked about the state vehicle usage and personal gain. Talked about hiring friends and family members. Just so you know, when I came back to Southern from University of Charleston, my former husband and I were already employees here. I did not hire them. They were employees. Was I supposed to fire them just because of my last name or just because of their last name? We have an ethics ruling that Bill Alderman is my ex-husband, and that does not violate an ethics violation at all. And this also says hiring Board of Governors chair for dean's position. He's talking about Dr. Lisa Haddix Heston, who is the dean of Allied Health and Nursing. And the ethics commission's probable cause review board has dismissed this complaint. The ethics commission accordingly will not take any further action on the above captioned complaint. Complaint BCRB 2024-136 was filed due to several things. First, that this person had received an email from me about what I wanted to see happening during the summer months with recruitment, the same as I gave the person in Williamson. The individual also complained about us purchasing an HVAC system for the Boone campus. But lo and behold, her name was on this as well. She signed off on this transaction, which is very concerning, and that she would name me, but she's the one that signed off on it. She also signed off on something about fire danger and something else. And the ethics commission found the report has dismissed the complaint. The ethics commission accordingly will take any further action. Now we have 2 that have been dismissed. The third was filed by another employee who quit the institution. And this person was just complaining about some actions that had happened around the office suite and things that had been said. The ethics commission had dismissed the complaint. The ethics commission accordingly will not take any further action on the above captioned complaints. So these 3 complaints have been dismissed. There are 2 further complaints that will be addressed at the April meeting. So you have asked a lot of these questions about purchasing of the
HVAC system.
Yeah, HVAC system and those types of things.
Yes, ma'am.
Her name was on it as well as mine. And we ordered that 10 months before it came in. We had the responsibility to replace that in the lease contract. So that should help to clarify those types of things. Next, I would like to talk about board members' request. Yes, board members did ask requests, and it did take us a little bit of time to get some of those requests. But the board members' requests were asked not in a very congenial manner. I mean, when my assistant received 8 back-to-back phone calls on her cell phone Where are you? Why aren't you picking up this phone? Aren't you in today? I need to talk with you before work time. Just very, very harassing. She became very upset. And that's, she resigned as the liaison to the Board of Governors because the way that she had been treated by these two individuals. Let me see what else I have here. We had a board member when I went out on medical leave that asked, well, is she in her right mind? And can she continue to work? Well, I think so, because I had gout and couldn't walk. I don't think gout, David Lemon, affects my mind. But I just wanted to let you know
Nobody
that.
told us, why you were out.
Pardon?
Nobody told us why you were out.
No, you cannot, that's not your business.
I got that, but you're acting as if I knew your condition.
Well,
All right.
so, we have tried to bring the HLC reports to this body since August, I'm sorry. We are told when we get up to present the reports, that's fluff. We don't need to talk about that. That could be talked about at another time. We can share this information. We could not, because this board or people that are on the board, not the new people on the board would not let us, and saying it was fluff. We also sat in rooms where the worst four-letter language would come out of mouths that you have ever heard. And our student representative, who is a Christian, said she could no longer stay in a room and listen to that type of language. And she quit at our last meeting. And she's a wonderful young lady. She also said she quit because individuals of this board would call her all hours of the day and night. Well, that's going outside the Open Meetings Act. And if you're calling another board member to discuss things, then you're violating the Open Meetings Act. So I have that from her as well. It's not all me, and you've not got the whole story, Dr. Treadway. Let me go on.
Pam, can I speak to something?
Sure, please.
One of the other issues that came up was the appointment of an interim president. I was on the board at that point in time. You guys were on the board at this point in time. You may not have been. Mary, I don't think you were. Brandon, Braden, you weren't. These folks weren't there. That decision was made by the board upon presentation of a policy from the college that said an interim president can be appointed, should be appointed, and a salary should be determined. Based on reading that policy, we had discussion on it. I don't remember the vote, whether it was unanimous or not.
It was.
The board voted to place this individual in that position with a salary of $148,000. Okay. When we came to your meeting in Charleston, we were told that you don't need that policy, you shouldn't do that. It was corrected at that point by you guys. Okay. But given the policies that we had and the members we had, we voted, in my mind, to follow the policy that was presented to us. And that's what we did.
Correct. And that is the policy, SCP 8600.A that we follow for our Board of Governors that has been in place for many, many, many years. So we cannot go outside of our policy just because you tell us we don't have to follow our policy. It's our institutional policies that we have to follow. And you're telling us, no, you don't follow that. Well, I think the HLC would have some concerns about that. The vote of no confidence and the letter that went up on Facebook. You are right, it did go up, absolutely. It was taken down immediately, within 2 minutes after you called. My assistant came in and took it down immediately. Had Bill France take it down immediately. It probably was not up more than 7 minutes tops. But I know what is on Facebook stays on Facebook, absolutely. I acknowledge to you that that was a mistake and that would not happen again. You say you've lost confidence in me. Well, I've lost confidence in the council as well. I've called Called numerous times asking for help. I called numerous times to talk to the chancellor, to talk with Kristen Boggs, the then attorney. And I was told, we don't get into that. You have to handle that. You have to figure that out. We cannot give you that information. I was given no information at all. So I have failed. I believe you have failed because you did not come down to help me. Now you want to relieve me of my powers and my duties prior to giving me any training or any help at all. You want to listen to a few people without getting the facts straight. And you don't want to listen to the truth. And we are here with the truth. Look at this room.
Right.
This one. Majority of our faculty and staff, we're a small college. I'm a hometown girl. I live, breathe, and eat this institution. My children will tell you that. As a matter of fact, they used to tell me that when I died, they were going to have me cremated and sprinkle my ashes here. I doubt you'll do that. Absolutely not. But you gave me no help at all. And I reached out to you. I reached out in December to the chancellor and got no help at all. She laughed at me. My daughter was there. She was listening. So how can you tell me that I'm not a leader, that I have not led this institution, when you have failed to tell me until 20 minutes ago what my failures are, what I'm doing wrong, or how I can fix them? Because I can fix them. Chris, we were in classes together. You're a very smart young man, but so I'm a very smart woman, and I know how to fix things. And I have fixed things throughout my life. And I have done a pretty darn good job of doing it.
Yeah.
You will not have any more than a handful of people in the institution that want me gone and a few new board members. Before these new board members, we were an excellent institution. Yes, there's one ethics violation. Yes, there's always grievances at any institution, a higher institution, and any school system. You're going to get grievances every day. I was a nurse once upon a time, walked into a job, picked up a piece of paper off the floor, got a grievance filed against me because that wasn't my job. It was a union hospital. And I didn't know I couldn't pick up a piece of paper. You're going to get grievances every day. The grievances that we now have, all of them are at the stage, except one, to be dismissed. So if we've got grievances that have been withdrawn, that have been one has already been dismissed, and the others are at the judge to be dismissed. I cannot see how you could say I'm not doing my job, because I am doing my job. And the law, the judge is showing that I'm doing my job. And these are not factual grievances, is what they're saying. I would have liked to have had a conversation prior to this. I think that you have let me down, but without talking to me first. Heard a little bit of the conversation. I'm sort of bring it out because what do I have to lose? I don't have anything to lose. Someone told me, they said, well, you think Chris Treadway wants your job? You think he's coming down here to be the president? I have no qualms to say, I bet that's exactly what's in place. So that's where I am, Mr. Treadway. You failed me. I didn't fail you in this institution. I have had the highest enrollment here for many, many years. We have raised more money at this institution over the last 4 years than they have in many, 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 many years. We have thought all about the students We have students, at least 50 to 75 every graduation, high school students walking across that stage, getting a high school diploma prior to getting their college diploma prior to high school. We have these students leaving us at 18. My Georgia back there, my granddaughter, 18 years old, and she's a junior at WVU. Many of us are doing the same thing. If I had not implemented and embraced Early College Academy, that wouldn't have happened. We have many good things happening here. You are just hearing from a few people who want, and David Lemon told me that he would be the president of this institution, and he would take over, and he would fire me and Bill Alderman and my staff. That is true.
Okay, whatever.
It is, and I have witnesses.
Santa Claus.
Okay, yes, I will move on.
Got stuff to-
Well, okay, I do too. I believe I deserve my job. In the last 4 years, the foundation has raised, Stacy, exactly how much have they raised?
Gross receipts were $2,437,381.26.
But we got- Totally remodeled the theater, which had not had one stitch of paint or anything put on it since it was built in 1980, which is a great thing to happen. I can go on and on and on. Many wrong things have been said about me in the paper. You shame on you, Mr. Fletcher. Hey,
HLC. Talk about HLC.
Oh, HLC,
Get that.
wonderful.
We're moving forward. Any comments from the board of directors, from the board of governors? Anybody have any comments, anything to say?
Mr. Fletcher, may I ask Mr. Treadway a question?
That's up to him. You want to take a question?
So I'm not going to get into a back and forth in this.
Well,
We've shared our recommendations. We've respectfully given the president a chance to share her position. And I think that's where our office is going to leave it. We told you what our expectations.
Well, I would like to know exactly why you're saying we need to limit our purchasing. What are the purchasing issues that you have a problem with?
We've shared with you our concerns and our recommendations.
How can the board make an actual decision if we don't know the problems? If you're referring to the $90,000 HVA unit, you know for a fact that type of things we have to bid out, and we had to do that months upon months in advance.
Explain to that, and you misunderstood the recommendation. The recommendation is that the president no longer has the authority to approve purchases over 5,000. All purchases over 5,000 will come through the board. You can spend 2 million if you've got a capital project that's been approved, if the board approves it. It doesn't go through the president. And so that's just a limitation on that. So that way the president doesn't go and spend over $5,000 on something without board approval. That's all it is. It's not limiting Southern from spending over $5,000. It's just in terms of the approval process for that spending.
I think that covers 4.1 on the agenda.
I just wanted to say something really quick. I'm the grants coordinator. My job is literally to purchase things with grant funds. Will there be, if this goes through, will there be a board member that will be available to me every single day when I have to get purchases? Yeah, of over 5,000, because I mean, I do grants all the time. I'm buying equipment. I've got deadlines. We're going into the end of the third quarter. There's going to be purchasing all the time to spend the money by June 30th. So I just want to guarantee that someone will be, if I email or send something, I'm not waiting 2-3 days. I mean, I know everybody's busy, but it comes down to spending the money or sending it back. And it's it's just so important. That was my concern with that part.
I would like to say that something about HLC. I have been a reviewer for HLC for nursing and many other accredited bodies throughout the United States. It was not one-sided. We answered their questions. We answered the questions of the standards. And it wasn't me who wrote it. It was a group of individuals, the ALOs, myself. We had the deans come in and help us write it. It was not just one voice. I will tell you that. And these people will also stand up to that. And we told the truth.
Thank you.
That's all I want to say about that.
Okay, we're going to move on to 4.2, the revocation of the president's delegate authority and the determination. What's your thoughts, guys? Any motions, non-motions? Anybody?
Well, as far as the limitation on the social media channel, I think she's already agreed to that. I would just suggest that this day forward, that anything should be positive to reflect the college. It should reflect the staff. It should reflect our students and our communities. So I do absolutely agree with that one. I think she agrees with it also at this point in time. I'd make a motion that that limitation be in place.
Motion's made and seconded. All favors, social media limitations to be in the positive, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Sorry about that. Anything else?
Has anyone seen the HLC response?
Yes, it's been said.
Okay, has any of the board members seen it?
No, we-
Is it a possibility that we could receive it?
Yes.
I've been asking.
Okay, I make a motion that each board member receive the response, so we have an opportunity to review it ourselves.
Yes, I did not send it until we talked to our liaison.
Yes, ma'am.
To make sure we could send that, and we did not talk to her until last Thursday. And I was having trouble sending it to Dr. Threadway because the files were so large. And I wanted to make sure I got back to the office so that I could get those broken down so I could send them to
I
everyone.
know you had great concerns, what was in that, so I would like to personally see it. I haven't seen it, so yes, thank you.
Any motions on the other three, remainder of the recommendations made by Dr. Treadway and the HGPC?
On the personnel dismissal and board stuff, how many do we have left in regards to grievances?
Grievances, we have 5 grievances right now, and those are all but one is up to be dismissed.
Okay.
That we will be having hearings on those in April.
Are those employees of
Those are former employees.
former employees?
And one
No one's currently employed.
No, those are not current employees. One was an employee at the Boone campus, and she knew that her job was going to be eliminated, and 3 other people were there as well also, and they signed for other jobs here. She did not. She chose not to sign for another job. So when the campus was, the Board of Education took it back, then the position was eliminated.
Thank you.
One is a current, yeah, okay, that's right.
Okay, then I would make the motion that the personnel that has the grievance, if any action, there should be no action taken until the grievance is over with.
Have a motion on the floor. Seconded. Motion of no action be taken until the grievances are settled.
May I ask if there's some nefarious activity going on? Are you saying we cannot,
She
I
made a motion.
made the motion in reference to just the grievance. Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
I just like a motion to about student district, what you're saying, we don't adopt pretty much the advice that we're going to get taken over by the state.
All parts, what you said. Well, I'm saying that if we, at the end of this meeting, if we report back to our board and the chancellor that the outcome of this meeting was not sufficient for us to feel like protections have been put in place to protect the taxpayers and the institutions, then we are prepared to take the next step, which would be a takeover of the institution potentially.
I make a motion to adopt what's been recommended by the chancellors.
Before we do that, I'd like to ask a question on that because when you do that, you're talking about $5,000. Entity this big, I don't want to have a meeting every day because that means all of us, or they're going to be behind.
And I've been a grant writer and person that deals with that all the time. That's going to be impossible.
I want to
Yeah.
discuss what would be a reasonable price per purchase.
So business keeps going like it's Mr. Jenkins.
Yes.
I think you said, so we can continue to do business, because Judy's right, we're in Perkins and different stuff, money has to go. We could still run it through CFO.
Yeah, some of
No.
our bills, our power bill maybe $30,000.
You're saying-
You're going to be the final sign off on all the bills.
Can we not let
That's
them
not the way I
see
interpret it.
That's what it
Oh,
gets.
okay.
Yeah, just let CFO.
CFO?
do business.
I agree with that.
That's not the way I interpreted the way he was.
Yes. Okay.
He just.
The way he's talking is even then, anything over $5,000 has to be always approved by the board. That's what I'm trying.
She can go out and purchase something individually at $5,000. If she does, she still goes through Belver, gets requests made. Other than that, if it's a Perkins grant or we're business allied health.
It's within the budget.
Which within the budget.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, everything's already out.
It's already pre-approved. Yeah, it's already allocated.
I don't know
Yes.
anything. I have not seen it.
Every purchase that we have, every purchase that I do, regardless if it is $10 or
Mr. Fletcher,
$100,000.
Mr. Treadway was,
It will have 3 signatures
At least.
period. Me, department head, faculty, and then if it's over a certain amount, it will either have Dr. Alderman's signature or the CFO's signature. There is no way to purchase anything without a full stream of signatures from people. So if there is some way that we could work, if it requires the full board to agree to a purchase, you're gonna be around a lot in the next 3 months. I'm just saying.
Dr. Treadway.
There is not any misfeasance or malfeasance of spending of the funds. I have not misspent any funds. There's been no funding.
Nobody said that.
Well, I want to make that
Dr.
clear.
Chairman, go ahead, please.
So I'll state again that what I shared with you were sort of our staff at some recommendations. We weren't saying, and we stated this, that you had to adopt what we recommended wholesale. That's why you all are here. After these conversations, if there is sort of a more reasonable approach that doesn't cause problems for people, that's part of what this conversation between the board members needs to be. Is it the merger threshold? Is it, is it whatever that needs to look like? Maybe it's
One member of the board.
Yeah, maybe one member of the board. Maybe it's a threshold of $50,000 or $100,000, and the board votes to designate one person as the person who sort of approves those, at least has some sort of board oversight over the larger purchases. That's up to you all. You decide that, or if you decide not to do it at all, your prerogative. Again, our goal was to share with you some recommendations. We'll discuss and make a decision. We'll jot those decisions down, go back and share that with the chancellor, our leadership team, and our board. They'll decide if they think those are sufficient for us to sort of hold off and wait to see sort of how things progress. But that's just, those were just our recommendations. I understand that there are some concerns that when you kind of get down to the operations into the weeds of things, that maybe those recommendations maybe didn't account for, and that's why you're having this discussion now. We just gave you a set of recommendations to kind of start the conversation.
I'm sorry, ma'am, what's your name?
Me?
Yeah.
Judith.
I think we've come to agreement as a board that we let Judith go along with what she does, her and Velva, with their Perkins grant, like Dr. Lemon said, and all the stuff that she knows has to be done, short of her going out and buying a Tesla, that her operation need to proceed.
Well, that wouldn't happen anyway.
But
We're gonna go.
I'm on your side this time.
But the
So-
finance department, we really do need to have like a constant going into the end of this quarter.
I totally agree. We don't want any of that interrupted. We don't want to, we gotta have the grant money to function. We gotta have all
Well, and the state won't let it. I mean, anything over 50,000, there's rules that has to be, I mean, there's just rules.
that. Can I get a motion allowing the finance department to continue as usual with their grant spending money that's already allocated that we have to spend and don't lose, short of anything miraculous up to $50,000, you said, and come back before the board?
Sounds good.
I
A
think
motion in a
we're
second.
gonna have to get a bid anyway.
Right.
So that's not gonna happen in this
I
fiscal year.
understand.
There's just not time.
Like you said.
I think it's good.
We can operate, you know, electricity, gas, all that. stuff.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I have a motion by Dr. Reynolds, a second by Dave Grisham, that would allow the finance department to proceed as normal. You know where you have to bid it at, if it's 25,000 or 50,000 or whatever that number is.
Yeah.
Make a motion to go ahead and so you guys can operate like you need to.
So just $50,000 for that is, that would not be a short time for purchasing. That would be something that would have to be planned, bidded, there would be,
And brought to the board.
but so anything else, okay, just thank you so much, I do appreciate it.
There we go, that's agreed.
I have one question for Mr. Treasurer. You get a satisfactory answer or not. I'd like to request that we get a couple of days' notice before anything impacts what we're doing.
That's what I like that.
So we do believe in open communication with our boards, and we also are sort of firm sticklers for following meeting notice requirements and those sorts of things. So, yeah, of course, we would communicate.
You do that to Mrs. Alderman or directly to the board, my email, Mr. Lehman's email, Mr. Fletcher's email?
Notify every member.
Yeah, we can notify you individually. We have your contact. But for the new board members, maybe you get your contact. But we have to adjust appointed, but I think we can.
We can expect that in advance of any action.
Yeah, I would say that's reasonable.
There at the same time. I mean, no action is going to take place without public notice.
Right.
You know,
And a
several days in
conversation,
advance.
there will be an open meeting like this one with the state board before action is taken. The first step for us would be recommendations from the chancellor to the board. And then the next step would be, I would assume, a meeting of the state board. And that would be properly noticed and be a public.
Clarifying that.
And Dr. Treadway, you said you had other lists of stuff that you had. Could you provide that to the board also?
List of.
Things that you were going on, you said they were lists of other things. Could you provide that to our board?
So the information I shared today was the information that we felt comfortable and confident in sharing because we feel like we have sort of firm firsthand evidence of sort of the allegations that we're making. Some things we've heard anecdotally, and I'm not comfortable sharing sort of hearsay and anecdotes. We shared with you all the things that we are confident occurred.
Okay, so and that's where we're basing this
Yeah.
today. Okay.
Things on the list that we shared was that, I mean, this is a list that we've sort of been, the list of things I discussed with you, a list that's sort of been maintaining over time. And there are lots of things we've heard. There are days when we'll get, half a dozen emails, some weeks go on, there's nothing, and all of a sudden you get kind of an influx of them
Yes, sir.
with various allegations, and I'm from anonymous email addresses, those sorts of things. And it happens all the time, and we sort of try to, sort of vet those.
Yeah, I just want to clarify that the board's not missing something that may need to be shared with us. That's the only thing I want to ensure that you may have privy to that we haven't knowledge of.
We'll discuss it with our leadership team when we get back to the office, and if there's anything we think we think is sort of substantive or substantive and substantiated, we're happy to pass that along. But again, we're sort of not in the business of passing along hearsay.
Appreciate that. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Fletcher, Mr. Chair, can I just ask one simple question of them? I'm one of these people. I want to know. What is the West Virginia Code citation that gives the council the authority to take over the college?
I don't think specific citation in my brain, but it's in 18B. Joe can look it up for you.
Council. Separate.
Is there a motion on the floor still?
Trying to vote.
No, I'm sorry. I just wanted to know that.
Go on and on.
Okay, thank you.
We have a motion, we had a motion on the floor by Dr. Reynolds and Dave Grisham about allowing the finance department to move forward and operate as normal. All in favor of that motion?
Aye.
All opposed? Last thing out of the 4 recommendations that we had was any reduction in power of the president. I think you said, hire, fire, anything like that you all would like to bring up, discuss, vote
I
on.
think we did address the grievance action to be taken. So that's one that we mentioned. So that one's definitely there. I think we've already agreed on it.
I think just adopt did they say they had a resolution itself? Mr. Jenkins,
Yeah, but that would have to be modified, what changed.
Again, I say accept what higher ed
That letter-
campuses told us, they're advising us on personnel. That's what we do, and we stay and we approve what they've stated as far as
You okay with that?
whatever.
So I have some questions with that just to ask. Okay,
I got a motion on the floor to adopt the resolution or Dr. Treadway.
Dr. Treadway, could you read the resolution to the board members, please?
Yeah.
Because I think part of that we will have to modify based on things we've already voted on.
I just think some clarification to make sure.
Yeah, why don't you take a recess and if we could send it to someone to print and give to you guys, it'd probably be an easier thing to do.
And we can make any adjustments to
Yeah.
make it so we say how we want to.
To make it clear to what we had going on, that would be great.
Take 10.
Yeah,
Okay,
yes,
make a motion to do 10-minute recess.
thank you. I agree.
Second.
Second.
I need to go pee.
I don't really.
Yeah, I don't know, I'll go.
Amazing.
sorry, Chairman.
All right, we're back in session from a short break and getting some stuff printed off and out to the board of governors members. Everybody had a chance to read this, go over it and comments and questions on it from what I have, so.
Chairman, in light of the things that we have been told today, and to be completely transparent and stuff, to be able to be sure everything is 100% accurate, I think this board needs to look at requesting an independent investigation of all the allegations from an outside independent source. Not the HEPC, not somebody here at the college, but an outside independent group.
I mean, I would agree with that, but everybody in the end, they're the only decision that matters. I mean, but they've got.
Well, no offense, it seems like, in my opinion, there is some bias. Whereas the HEPC is supposed to be our impartial help and stuff. I really feel like it would be the best thing that we get independent confirmation. That everything, I'm not going to deny some of the stuff that they've reported needed to be corrected. Yeah, but I frankly think some of the stuff we need to know exactly. Is this as bad as we're being told? Is it not as bad as we're being told? Does it not even exist?
Prior to voting on this resolution, I would make the motion to adopt what I said, for independent outside investigation.
Is that your motion?
And then I'll say,
You got a second?
Would that like include like a legislative audit as well?
I mean, we've had financial audits in the past by an accounting firm. They've come back fairly clean. There was one instance a couple years
If we're
ago.
gonna do it, we're gonna do top to bottom.
I say,
Yeah, I agree, yes.
Right.
Yes.
We're gonna do if it's financial, if it's.
do it all.
Yeah.
Maybe if that's your all's pleasure, it's top to bottom. It's not no pick and choose.
Okay.
No.
All right, just asking.
Yeah, I mean, that's the only fair way to do it.
Okay. Be after this.
Who would be doing such?
Firms that do that, I know, not sure who, but there are 4 firms.
Who would be set to hire that?
Mr.
The board or?
Since you're the man that made the motion, we're gonna task you with finding us 3 companies, institutions, firms, whatever you want to call them, that might be interested in doing that.
Be good.
Yes, sir.
All in favor? Yeah, that's prior, you said prior to signing this. Right, Dave? So there we have, that's motion carried. That takes care of item 4.2 on the agenda. Number 5, compensation for acting interim president. We'll waive that and move down to item number 6 on the agenda.
The question before we go to adjournment. Our next regular meeting was scheduled for, I think, 13th, 14th. I know the date's been floated out there. And I know several board members are very, just trying to see are we planning to do our next, just so we have a sort of date and we can figure out and go around our.
Look, we already had them scheduled, right?
So I have been speaking, I've done this twice now. I had to, because board members could not attend, speaking to CCT about the training. I did this earlier in December, or later in December, and board members said they could not attend training. We have April the 15th as our retreat day. All day long is the retreat. We were going to have, I've been talking with ACCT to come retreat on boards of governance. It would be here at the institution, probably in C202, bigger room, more spread out. And then we have our board meeting that night. That's what we have typically been doing over the last 2 or 3 years.
As I answered your email, I'll be out of town that week.
And I think Brett has a board meeting that same day.
It's gonna be out that day. My board, that's our board meeting day. So
So who can attend that day? I've already blocked that off on my schedule.
Yeah, everybody should talk
About
about
April 15th.
beginning of August. Well, the ones that were here in August, I'm sorry, I know we got new people. But the typical, our retreat for the last several years has been at that April date.
Well, I think you weren't able to attend the retreat, right? It would be difficult with my job. I heard Mr. Thomas say he could not board meeting. Who can make?
you couldn't make it either. She would have to change her schedule. She answered an email.
I was wrong about was wrong about the evening, the board meeting in the evening, that day.
So, Mr. Chancellor, this is problems I've had twice now scheduling for training. So I don't know how you want to move forward.
So I'll just say, as I said before, that I've done a lot of work with ACCT. I really admire the work they do. It's good training. So if the April date doesn't work, there are ways like the president's office could sort of poll everyone to see if they can find some dates. You have to be kind of flexible with them because they do trainings all over the country. They have a small staff. So it's a matter of trying to pin down a date, not only when all of you are available, but also when they can get here to Southern West Virginia. So what my suggestion would be to maybe leave this meeting charging the president and her staff with sort of polling the board to find out as much availability as you can share for the next, few months. Just give them every date that you can find, and they can compare everyone. So they can do a doodle poll or just email you, whatever. Find the date that works best for the most people. It may be that it's not going to work for everybody, but for the best date for the most people. And then work on trying to get that scheduled with ACCT. We can also help with that process. We have pretty close contacts with the folks at ACCT. So if you have any trouble getting through to them, let us know. We can.
Since they're doing training all over the place, wouldn't it be best to get training dates from them that they maybe would be available?
Yeah.
If you don't mind, get training dates from them and then poll us. So these are the days they're available.
And they may tell you what their
Yes.
preference is in terms of trying to schedule.
Okay, that would be great.
I'm just suggesting that you start the process, however it works best for you.
Okay.
They have already matched a suitable trainer for us that they think would be very good.
Good. They're really wonderful.
They are very good.
So, and I mentioned to a couple of your board members at the break that we can also, Joe and I could come down and do some training as well. We're also working on a new training platform. It's an online training platform. It'll be available soon. And for the new board members who haven't gotten our packet yet, we also have a bunch of online resources. We do a monthly lunch and learn webinar for board members, bring in outside speakers from all over the country, and all invitations to all of those. We do 5 or 6 a year. We just did our last one. The last one of the year, right for the academic year, so we'll start again in the fall. We also,
No,
You got one coming up.
Sorry, one in April. Yep, right. We just added that one. It was actually a request from a board member that we added that one on shared governance. So good topic. And we also have a big board summit. It's our in-person conference that we're hosting in October, finalizing those dates probably next week. We'll be sending out a save the date for that here in the next few weeks. So any of that kind of stuff that you can sort of take advantage of, we encourage you to. And again, if you've been on the board for a little while, we just started sending out information pack box that we send you in the mail with a book and a bunch of other resources. If you haven't gotten that and you'd like to get one of those from our office, it includes links to a bunch of videos of our lunch and learns. Just shoot us an email and my assistant Angie can get one right out in the mail to you. We'll make sure everybody has those resources, whatever you need to make it successful.
Thank you.
Final question, clarification, if you don't mind. Are we going to do this tonight before we leave? Has it already been adopted without?
We adopted bits and pieces,
We did.
Okay.
and I thought we were talking of like making gets revised with exactly what we had
Yes.
discussed.
Okay, I'd like to offer one thing. And number 4 says, pretty much nobody can go on social media and talk about college stuff except in a positive way. I'd also like to include board members in that as well.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So.
Okay, so if we're going to do that, can I ask my one question, Chairman? Number 1 deals with hiring, firing, promotions. I just need to know what we agree as a date. We have promotions that just went through faculty that go into effect February of 2025.
They've already been made, let them go.
Those have been-
Didn't you discuss that?
Yeah.
I'm sort of going with
Last time.
There was-
of hiring postings.
But I think it's already in the hopper.
those have already been-
Does that include hiring postings does this include hiring postings on the site? For instance, chief academic officer.
Yes, it does.
Mr. Treadway wants to speak.
The intent of that was not to say that, and if you read it carefully, we try to word it in such a way that the intent was to avoid postings like the other day that was sort of directly attacking the board and sort of fueling this.
Oh, you're talking social media one.
So social media, yeah, so.
Or news,
Or
I mean,
website, or any,
as officially as the college, again, we're not talking about individual people as their own. You can say what you want. I mean, it's the First Amendment.
in your official capacity as an employee of the institution or as the president, to not use the official institutional social media or other channels to sort of disparage the board or the institution. That's all that says. And it even says in there somewhere, or the exact wording, this does not imply that people don't have a right to do their own posts on social media. It's just your official channels is an official business that you can post anything else you want. It's just not, we're saying don't post derogatory things that sort of hurt the institution. And that's a restriction that we're because that one did. And yes, it did come down within a couple of minutes of my call, but it was still active.
I think we did make a motion on that already and agreed on to that.
I was just asking about the hiring because we have postings out there and one of them is very important for our HLC process because
It's still post.
Mr. Lemon knows
You can
that.
Still post information for the college.
Interesting news and events, all those sorts of things. We're just saying derogatory posts like that.
I'm referring to number 1, it's hiring,
I think,
firing.
yeah, I think he's looking at, do we still go forth with the hiring and that process and how the board goes?
I understand. I'm just,
Yeah,
You can still post it. It's still.
well, it's already posted and they should be already under review.
By who?
I don't know who the committee is because I might be one of the applicants.
Okay, I understand. But that-
We have
but it-
positions and
it needs to come-
CAO
it
is
needs to
very
come to the board.
important.
It needs to come to the board before
Okay.
it is selected.
So has that already been approved? I mean, has the board approved that?
No, the board has not.
You approved it in a narrow fashion.
Because there's several job postings that just come down, and I think Ms. Dingus is has set the committees to the people to serve on the committees in order to try to bring these people on board. We have a few positions that are very critical that need to be hired.
And that's appropriate. And then that committee would bring, if you adopted it as it's written, you would go through your normal processes, but instead of having the final sign off, typically, which would be the president, it would be the board. And so it comes before the board saying, we have a recommendation from committee X that is presenting candidate Y. Does the board wish to hire them? Yay or nay? And you move forward with it.
And that's consistent with, say, how many county school districts handle hiring. There's usually a personnel section on the agenda, and they approve give the final stamp of approval on personnel matters. But again, that's up to you all to decide if you want to
Adopt it in that
or
fashion.
adopt it. Whole or part, but it's funny with me.
And I do have another question. I can write articles about the institution, about the plays and those types of things. for our Facebook page?
So I said, yeah, I mean, the.
Okay, I wanna be very clear.
On official channels.
I want to be very clear.
Okay, so we have the grievance part of section 1, right?
Yes. So we got the grievance part. So what are we talking about? Promotions? You guys said promotions that are in the queue, they're good, right? It's from, okay, everything comes from the board.
All our committees that Debbie had this thing has said, if there's 2, 5, 12,
They all come before the board already.
They all have to come done.
Okay,
Would it be prudent for the board to receive those via email since we're having trouble establishing meetings, consistent meetings?
Yeah, I think that is not point.
Because the next one was on the 15th and they got somebody they desperately need and sounds like they have one. If we're not having a meeting, I would suggest that we get emails with the qualifications and the recommendation and we'll via email. Is there anything that would prevent that?
You can't debate and vote over email because it's a violation of the public meeting law.
Okay.
And you could have a Zoom meeting.
I was gonna ask, could we do a Zoom meeting?
Okay.
Zoom you guys in?
You can get information,
This meeting here's on
Yeah,
Saturday.
yeah. So we could all meet by
get
Zoom.
information and all that, just don't reply all and say, hey, I like this candidate, because now you're violating
Yeah.
open meeting law. Just say, thank you, got it, we'll talk on Zoom or whatever.
And those all have to be kept confidential. I just want to make clear that those are confidential, cannot be shared with anyone within your household or anything, anyone you work with, those types of things.
Yes, ma'am.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
So what we decide on number 1?
Yep, yep.
Oh,
There's not,
I'm sorry.
there's not been a clear motion.
Do I have a motion to accept number 1 as written?
Make a motion to accept.
Have a motion and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? There are none. So there you have it. Anything, any hirings, firings, all that stuff by these committees will come in front of the board and we'll go from there. Try to get you a meeting by the 15th. I don't know if I think Sonia asked the president to maybe send out some dates,
I will.
send out some dates for a meeting.
Well, I'm just trying to help you guys
I
too.
appreciate that, sir.
And then we'll have,
Keep us on task. Yes, we appreciate it.
we'll need to have the agenda, we have to figure out when we're gonna have the meeting, and then we're gonna figure out when the agenda meeting is before that, so everything can get posted.
I think that's
I'll help
usury.
you through that. Thank you. You're welcome.
Absolutely. And I think that concludes, Mr. Gray.
I just want to ask if you could send me the code citation that authorizes that you.
B 2B6E.
The.
6Z. Here, I wrote it down on my card for you.
Okay, thank you very much.
B dash 6B.
2B6E.
6E.
Okay.
It's just, anybody here at the college knows I'm one of these people. I want to know code. I want to know where it's at.
Last question. Ms.
Okay,
Nichols.
since I'm the one who, the HR and I'll be the one committing, with the motions to the committee, who does that need to go to on board? Would it go to the chairman?
Yes.
You, right?
Yes.
And you.
And I'll-
You'll distribute it.
I'll send it out to
Okay,
everybody
I
else.
just wanted to clarify that so I know.
Yes, ma'am, that's fine.
And I will just, if I may, Mr. Chairman, when you send that out, make sure like personally identifiable information in terms of like social security number, birthday.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, that's-
Yeah, we don't need that. We don't need any of that.
We don't ask that. People apply.
Yes,
Yes.
1.5,
yes.
okay.
We've settled. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you gonna do this? You're gonna do an investigation first. or you
Well,
gonna-
he's gonna find it. We voted to accept all this tonight. Then we're gonna let him do his investigation. Or give us 3 names for the next, we'll have somebody do it.
But then will that come back, then you maybe rescind this?
We could-
It's in there. It says the rescind down here. Yes, ma'am, it does.
Got that. Anything else? Like, Scotty, come on.
I'll make a motion, we dismiss.
Anybody else, second?
I'll second.
Scotty, motion to adjourn, I'm seconded, motion is carried, and we're.
Derek, just need you to sign this so we can.
Derek, sign.
Thank you all for jumping in. I know sometimes being a volunteer.